Yeah, we're still very guarded, bearish even in some Asian currencies. The main reason is I think the Fed factor is being overwhelmed by the global slowdown factor. As you know, for emerging markets, a weaker global economy is almost always not good. So I think that's probably what's driving currencies right now.
And in terms of the U.S. trade talks, what are we going to see? Because the conversation that Matt and I are continuing to have is whether or not it's actually going to work for or against the president to try and pull off a China trade deal before the election.
So we wrote this note back in February, which was titled, "Caving to China Probably Won't Help Trump Get Reelected." And that's still our view. I think it's pretty obvious what's the difference between a real deal, which is what Trump says he wants, and what we've called a deal in name only, which I've discussed on this and other programs, DINO. The really tough stuff, the IPR protections, subsidies, whatever, those have just completely gone by the wayside since the end of April. So I don't see the Chinese showing any concessions on those fronts. And if you don't have any concessions on those fronts, it's very hard to get a real deal. So my expectation is that there'll be some talk, but the things that have happened that you guys have highlighted, it's clearly not a good sign for these talks ending up with anything substantial.
So, Cliff, let's go back to what the Fed, of course, had to say overnight. The Fed boss, Jay Powell, essentially saying that it's not QE, but they're going to expand the balance sheet going forward to help out some of the banks as we, of course, continue to see borrowing costs decline and, of course, globally continue to see that negative interest rate environment. Were you expecting to hear that out of the Fed? And what does it mean for your call then on the dollar going forward?
So as I said, I think the Fed is cutting rates, and normally that would be a negative factor for the dollar, but the dollar remains very resilient, and I think what that shows is a kind of a safe haven demand for the dollar in the face of a slowing global economy. To me, the main thing that you really need to ask about the Fed is whatever they're doing to try to keep this economy, this economic expansion sustained, you have to ask whether it's going to work. Because if it's we're cutting, but the global economy is still slowing, then you have to ask, why are we doing this? That's my question anyway.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.